Good morning, baseball fans, and welcome to Week 11 of Major League Baseball Power Rankings. Today is Sunday, June 16th, 2019, so that means Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Welcome to the show. This week, we've had a bunch of moves, but before getting into all that, I've noticed a bunch of new subscribers, so welcome to the channel. Thank you for subscribing. Hope you enjoy the show. And because we have a bunch of new people, I also saw in the comment section over the past week a lot of people that are not just new to this channel, but new to the game. So before we get into too much of the detail, let's give you a quick overview that you've probably seen in previous videos, but let's just go over it real quick anyway. One of the reasons why I do this channel is because I find that Major League Baseball and ESPN have extremely biased power rankings, where they're not based upon the play on the field, but based upon their opinion of the team. Well, opinions are not objective. Opinions are biased and subjective because they're opinions. So the formula that I came up with to give an objective perspective on the power rankings is during a regular season game, if you win the game in 9 innings, regular game, you get 3 points. If you lose the game in 9 innings, you get 0 points. So, what about the extra inning games? There are plenty of them throughout the course of the season. Well, if a team fails to hold off a team and close them out in 9 innings, they've sacrificed their points, and that both teams split them in the extra innings. However, the team that arrives victorious in extra innings gets 2 points because they did actually win the game. So you get 3 points for an 9-inning win, 2 points for an extra inning win, 1 point for an extra inning loss, and 0 points for an extra or a 9-inning loss. Having said that, you do see a lot of points are tied here. 3 here, 2 here, 2 here. So the first level of tiebreaker for points is that week's run differential, because the reality of the matter is that points are based upon the whole season, but you're trying to determine that week which team did better. Therefore, we take just that week's run differential because there's 2 groups of fans. Those that love a great offensive show and those who love a great defensive show. For those who like the offensive show, we take all the runs scored by that team for the week, and then for those fans who like a defensive show, we subtract the number of runs they gave up that week. So for example, in this case, this week alone, they scored the same number of runs as they gave up for that week, whereas in this case, they scored 21 runs more than they gave up during the course of the week, and vice versa, they gave up 25 more runs than they scored during the course of the week. So, having said that, you still have a rare situation where you can get the same number of points and same run differential. And to break that up, a second round of tiebreaker is taking the accumulative run differential for the year. Now this can be found on MLB.com's regular standings, and for this, so this is 11 and minus 18 for the whole year. That provides you a little bit of tiebreaker, and obviously if you're looking at the standings and you happen to notice that the run differential for some of these teams, you might get lucky. I think there are more than one team with the total for the season run differential of 11 and 18, but you can always take a shot. Either way, we are going to cover all these teams, so we'll get there anyway. Okay, so that covers our ranking system. To give you some quick highlights here, we've had 9 teams move up, 7 teams move down 1 or more spots, and half the league stayed in the same spot. Fundamentally, the reason for this is because we're getting towards the heart of the season here. We're approaching the All-Star break, and things really start to heat up in August, September. However, at that point, things are heating up for the teams that are within distance of making the playoffs. we're already seeing with the new rule changes where there's no longer that non-waiver deadline. After July 31st is the trade deadline, and teams used to be able to do waiver pickups after the fact, and baseball has discontinued that. Therefore, you're now seeing mid-season trades happen earlier than they usually do. For example, last night, the Yankees traded a highly touted pitching prospect to Seattle for Edwin Encarnacion. Give you my opinion on that later, but just to give you an idea, they are happening sooner than they used to happen, being a few weeks before the All-Star game. So, because you have 2 months plus, going on 3 months of games under your belt here, it moves are a lot slower to happen. Sure, we still have the outliers. Teams that have phenomenal weeks can jump a lot. We have had the highest jump being 4, and teams that have really horrible weeks can plummet, especially if teams around them have much better weeks. We had one team, the largest fall was 7. So, given the fact that we are mid-season, I'm not totally surprised to see 14 teams having stayed the same place they were last week. However, because this is a cumulative effect over the course of the season, the teams can still move up and down over the long run considerably. So I don't read too much into the fact that a lot of teams are in the same spot this week, because they might not be the same teams that were in the same spot the previous week. Every week they do change up for the most part as to where they stand. There is a series of teams that were in the same spot from last week, and that's largely due to the fact that they're all contending for the top spot there, and therefore, as they have played their weeks, they haven't had significant performance in relation to their nearby competitors to be able to lose their spot. So anyway, I'll get into how all that works as we get to the teams here. Just want to give you some quick statistics. The best week was 6-1. The worst week was 1-6, and we'll show you who that is when we get there. So, getting on into things. Coming in at number 30, the rebuilding Baltimore Orioles. This team went on a major fire sale last year, and they are going to be paying for that, not just this whole season, but the coming seasons as well. Baltimore comes in at 21 and wins and 49 losses for the worst record in baseball. Baltimore did not have the worst record this week, but it wasn't far from it. They came in at 1 win and 5 losses, having played home games against Toronto and Baltimore, dropping 2 out of 3 to Toronto and dropping 2 games to Baltimore. They finished the last game today, but because they won 1 against Toronto, that means last Sunday's game was also a loss. So it's just a rough week for Baltimore, and it's going to be a rough year for Baltimore. This is a team which, with all teams throughout Major League Baseball, will win at least 40 games. But you gotta figure, with close to 100 games left, maybe a little less, being at 70 games played so far, so you've got 90 games left in the season. You know, that's a lot of losing to endure, and I feel so sorry for you guys in Baltimore. I know that some Baltimore fans I know aren't even watching the games because it's hard to watch their team. I get that. Opposing teams playing Baltimore probably do tune into this because they're looking at, ooh, a freebie, nice ride to a quick victory to compete better. That's great, except for when you drop the games. Then you get a saucy hat, or dunce hat, whatever. And in this case, they did beat Toronto once, but Toronto isn't exactly in their best shape themselves. Baltimore starts off the board, and they are in 5th place of their division, bottom of the whole league. Coming in at number 29, the Kansas City Royals. Kansas City is in the same spot as last week. They are also in 5th place of their division, and only a hair better than Baltimore, being at 22 wins and 48 losses. They had a slightly better week, which accounts for the extra win. They went 2 wins and 4 losses against home games against Toronto, or not Toronto, but Detroit and then a road game in Minnesota. Going into Minnesota, dropping 2, divisional game, yes, but Kansas City is just hurting, and Minnesota is no slouch. These are games which you would kind of expect Minnesota to win, but if Kansas City was able to pull it out, then they would be getting a huge accolades right now. However, they played more or less status quo this week. Coming in at 28, the Detroit Tigers. Detroit, same spot as last week. They are now in 4th spot, which means there are some teams that, of 6 teams, there are 5 5th place teams, and they are a 4th place team in their division only because they're in the same division as Kansas City, and somebody has to be 5. But Detroit isn't doing much better. There are 4 other teams that are in 5th place in the division. They're doing better than Detroit. Detroit coming in at 25-42 for the season, had a 1-win, 5-loss week. Not the worst, but not far from it. Detroit went on the road and lost 2 out of 3 in Kansas City, and then they came home and dropped 2 games to Cleveland. They're going to play another one today. We'll see how that goes. It most likely will be a sweep. But they also lost last Sunday as well, so that makes their 1-5 for the week. This is a team with which analysts put before the year that they were a rebuilding team, that they weren't projected to do very well, and they started off the year not too shabby, now they're kind of down to earth. In reality, that a lot of these teams here, the whole bottom row, are teams that are rebuilding, trying to find their identity, trying to do something. They're all teams that are in pain. And I'm sorry to all fans of these teams here. It gets much more interesting in these bottom 2 rows. These are teams that somebody has to be on the bottom, so we'll just cover the details. Coming in at our 27, the Toronto Blue Jays. Toronto being in 4th spot of the American League East, because Baltimore takes the Duns cap there. Toronto having had not as bad as because the other 3 teams going 2 wins and 3 losses on road games into Baltimore, into Houston, taking 2 out of 3 from Baltimore, but losing 2 games to Houston, and most likely will lose the 3rd game this Sunday against Houston. They're 20 games under 500, and they're fielding a bunch of sons of Hall of Famers. These sons are rookies. These sons are brand new to the game. They have to get their feet wet. But at the same time, that's growing pains for the team. Because Baltimore is struggling even worse, they don't get to sit in the cellar, but they are probably not too far from it as far as where they deserve to be. Coming at 26, the Miami Marlins. Miami, I find interesting. I've coined them as by Miami standards because this is a team that after the group, I believe owned by majority shareholder Bruce Sherman and CEO Derek Jeter bought the team, they went on a fire sale, dumping all their cap space, all their top talent. They kind of did what Baltimore did, but it's like imagine restructuring. Although for baseball fans, that's painful because you're taking all your top talent in Christian Yelich and JT Realmuto and Giancarlo Stanton, etc., 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 etc. All of your top tier teams, players, they shipped them off to other teams, reloaded their farm system, and now they're developing. So, having said that, I say Miami standards because when you do that, when you decimate a team like that, you are expected to have horrible seasons. So when they do well, they're doing well by Miami standards, not by Major League standards, because Major League Baseball, they are a rebuilding team. They're trying to get experience, trying to figure out what works with their players. They're expected to be horrible this year. So when they do well by Miami standards. Having said that, they are in 5th place of the division, and they are not expected to climb out of 5th place. They're 24-34, 24 wins, 43 losses. Sorry, dyslexia going on there. 2 wins, 4 losses, having home games against St. Louis and Pittsburgh, dropping 2 out of 3 to St. Louis, splitting with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's an interesting team. We'll get into that one. But by Miami standards, they had a subpar. By Miami standards, wasn't 0 for 6, so I'll give him credit for that. Same time, dropping 4 out of 6 on the week is the opposite of where you want to be, so they had a poor week. Same time, considering who they're playing, they could have maybe taken some games out of there, especially with what they did in their West Coast trip, but I digress. Moving right along, coming at 25, the San Francisco Giants. Same spots last week. They were 8 games under 500, 30-38. They are also a last place team, coming in at 5th place in the National League West. But they actually had a good week, winning 4, losing 1. Not the best week, but for San Francisco, a team that's rebuilding, a team that has players like Buster Posey and Baumgartner, who are in their own right all-stars and potentially future Hall of Famers for the careers they've had, are on the back end of their careers, and so is half their team. They are either prospects that are trying to develop themselves or veterans with whom are past their prime. It's a perfect formula for a rebuilding team, hence they're on the bottom level here. Having said that, they did have a good week, and here's the deal. They did it against strong teams. They won 2 at home against San Diego. They won 2 at home against Milwaukee. Home field advantage is very, very nice. It definitely makes it easier to win games and do it against strong teams like San Diego and Minnesota. Now, I should really probably stop saying strong teams of San Diego because they are no longer as high ranking as they used to be, but they started off the year with a lot of promise. We'll get into that. Having said that, Milwaukee is a very good team. They are in first place in their division, so you won't see them in the bottom row. But nothing you can't see from MLB standings.com. You can see Milwaukee in first place and that San Diego is really not. But having said that, San Francisco comes to 25 because they had a very good week. They did drop their season finale last Sunday, but then they proceeded to win 4 games throughout the course of the week against teams that are not bad in their own right. So kudos to San Francisco. Great job. Let's see you do it again. Coming at 24, the Seattle Mariners. How the mighty have fallen. A team that started off the year at number 1 has fallen all the way down to 24. They were in the same spot as last week because it's really, I mentioned last week, it's really kind of hard to fall farther when you have teams that are in rebuilding and are kind of duking it out for last place, more or less. I think potentially they could probably fall below San Francisco Giants or the Miami Marlins, but I don't see them falling below the other 4 because they did get a boost to the year, getting off to a strong start. And could they fall farther? Sure, because anybody can move up. Anybody can get their act together and go on a streak. But having said that, they are the lovable losers of Major League Baseball in the sense that they start off with so much promise and then they fall. And because they were one of the first teams to sell off players, means they probably are giving up on the year and saying, okay, fine, we made a run at it, approaching midseason, let's try and reload with some new players. And getting a top Major League Baseball 27th best pitching prospects is not a bad way to do it. He will need some development time in the minors, but at least they're recognizing where they are and they're making moves because of it. Coming in at number 23, Pittsburgh Pirates. Now this is a fun team to follow. Reason being is because, like a few other teams on this board, they are hot and cold. They have the depth and the structure of a team that they can win any given day, but you never know which team is going to show up. It could be the team that could go into LA and win. You could also get a team that that has a home game against Baltimore and loses. You don't know which Pittsburgh team is going to show up. Any given day, which makes every game very interesting. I've seen them go in to have home and away games against Milwaukee, and one day clobber them. The next day, get their butts kicked by Milwaukee. It's just, you don't know what team's going to show up, and with that, random nature of it all, it's always intriguing to see, ooh, which Pittsburgh team is going to show up today? Are they going to blow away the competition, or are they going to lay an egg? Who knows? But as a result, they're in 23. Coming in at number 22, the Cincinnati Reds. Similar to Pittsburgh in that you don't know which team is going to show up. They have the ability to go into Wrigley and kick butt. They also have the ability to play at home against Miami and lose. So, I mean, this is a team that I'm reminded of the Big Red Machine, but that's like almost 50 years ago in the 70s. That's what I really have in high hopes for the Cincinnati Reds. I want to see them put together and make something happen. However, this season is not going to be that year. There are 8 games under 500. They're down 1 spot. They're in 5th place with their division, and they had a subpar week, winning 2, losing 3. At Cleveland, going 1-1, and at home against Texas, going 0-2. It's one of those things where Cincinnati has a subpar week. I'm just not surprised. When they have a good week, it's great. I want an excuse to praise you. It's like that child with which you're trying to kind of steer them in the right direction, where when they do something, it just makes you shake your head. You're just not surprised by it. But it's like, oh my God, they did a great job. They did good there. Yay! I want to praise you and encourage that. There you go, Cincinnati. Coming in at 21, the Washington Nationals. They're up 1 spot. They leapfrogged Cincinnati. They are 16 under 500, 32-38. And they had a very, very average week, being 3 wins, 3 losses, 1-1 in Chicago White Sox, and losing 2 out of 3 to Arizona at home. This team with which you're not too many years removed from when they were competing in the playoffs, trying to win the pennant. But they've also lost some valuable players in Bruce Harper, and Gio Gonzalez, and other players. Having said that, they still have some strong pieces. They still got Scherzer, and they just brought in that pitcher from Arizona, Patrick Corbin from Arizona, who was supposed to be a phenomenal. He had a strong year last year with Arizona. Comes in. I've seen him lose some games he should have won, and I've seen him win some games he didn't have a right to win. So I feel like, based upon last year, he's having a down year. Part of that could be contributed to being on a new team, but you're still in the National League, and therefore you still have some strong pieces on Washington. They're just not playing to their full potential. However, they're not in last place. They're only in 4th place of the division. The last place of your division being Miami, yeah. So that Washington is like your Toronto in that case. And the fact that they would be in last place if it wasn't for a team that's even worse in the cellar of the league. So that covers your bottom 10 teams that are rebuilding, significantly struggling, trying to develop their players, trying to figure out their identity. Now, these are Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. It's more fun to watch them in the middle row because these are teams with which have a lot more potential than they're showing. Having said that, let's get into the middle row. The middle row are teams with which are not necessarily rebuilding per se. They are jockeying for positioning. They're trying to find their identity. They're trying to get on a run here so they can break into the top 10. These are teams with which I wouldn't necessarily, which it's kind of toss a coin whether they're sellers or buyers going into the trade deadline. These are all teams with which have the potential to get on a run and break into the top 10 and make a playoff run at things. These are also the teams with which you're going to find are going to tease their fans to no end, flirting with playoff run, but never quite cracking it in there. Those are teams they give you so much hope and then disappoint. So sorry. At the same time, you also got a team that might just say, I'm done. I gave my best shot. I gave it all I got. And start selling off players. Starting off this row, coming at number 20, the San Diego Padres had great promise this year with the bringing in Eric Hopper last year, bringing in Manny Machado this year, bringing in I think it was Brad Hand. I could be mistaken. That could be a different team, but I think it was Brad Hand. They have a strong nucleus of both veterans and rookies trying to contend, and they just haven't delivered. I mean, they started off promising. They got in the top 10 at least a couple of times, and then they've been falling off. San Diego being in 4th place in their division, because they started off the year strong and have fallen off. They haven't fallen down to the bottom row here, but they're not far from being number 29. San Diego had the largest fall of any team this week, dropping 7. They were up here, and now they're all the way down there. They're on the verge of falling off the radar altogether. They're 3 games under 500, so it's not terrible there, but they had a 1-win, 5-loss week going into San Francisco and into Colorado, dropping 2 to San Fran, dropping 2 out of 3 to Colorado. These are divisional games, dude. Divisional games. And fundamentally, if you can't win your divisional games, it kills you. The difference last year in the AL East was the fact that the Boston Red Sox dominated their division. That gave them a significant 8 or 12 game lead over New York, with whom had a very strong year, 100-win season, but they could not win against their division. And I just highlight those 2 teams because they would have a huge spread that was all based upon divisional games. There you go, San Diego. You just dropped 4 out of 5 games against divisional teams, and that's where you get a lay and egg thing. I don't care if they're home or road, they're divisional games. You drop those, you don't deserve to hold your head high. Bow your head, regroup, come back next week, but this week, yeah, you're just a disappointment. I'm sorry, Padres fans, but I have a lot higher expectations, and their performance beginning of the year gave me those expectations. Get together. Coming at number 19, the Chicago White Sox. Chicago up 1 this week, having taken out of the 4-game set against New York, taking 2 out of 3, season finale today, and having home games against Washington, splitting that 1-1. They had a 4-win, 2-loss week, but the last Sunday they also won the game. They are in 3rd spot of their division, and this is a team with which I see a lot of potential. You have some caliber players there. The thing is that they aren't playing in sync consistently. I've seen the way they play. They beat Washington and they beat two games from New York, and then I saw how they dropped a game against Washington and dropped a game against New York. This is a team with which, similar in nature to Pittsburgh, you just don't know which team is going to show up. I mean, granted, the ability to win any given game is largely contingent on who is starting that game. When you have your team, Giolito, I think his name is, forgive me if I mispronounce his name, but you have a fireball like that, when he's starting, you expect to win the game. When you have pitchers like yesterday's, I forget his name, start, it's just, you're setting yourself up. Now granted, your offense and your defense can compensate for a little bit for that, but fundamentally, the rest of the team seems to follow suit with whomever is starting that game. They don't really seem to show the ability to, I would say the ability to compensate for how they start the games, but they were down like 4 runs against New York and they still came back to win. That, however, was not contributed to Chicago's ability to rebound as much as it was New York just laying it an egg, giving the game away. And so therefore, their season is going to be largely contingent upon who they put on the mound this year. There are going to be some outlier games, like teams where the bullpen does great, or the offense does great, or defense has sloppy games. You never know. Having said that, they are going to be a middle-of-the-road team most of the year probably. Coming in number 18, the New York Mets. Syndergaard got a win. Yay! Good job, Syndergaard. I think that was a win. could have been lost. But I saw him back in, and considering he was on the IL for a while, I'm glad to see him back with the Mets. Between him and DeGrom and the rest of and a powerful lineup, they have a lot of potential. They are called by New York fans for my lovable losers because they have historically never really been contenders. They only have a couple of championships in their franchise history, and they always stack their teams with a lot of potential, but then they never turn the switch on and actually propel. Having said that, the New York Mets are in the States Finals last week. They're 2 games under 500. They had a very, very average week, winning 3, losing 3 for third place in the AL East. They went into New York for the Subway Series, split the games, had home games against St. Louis, dropped 2 out of 3. Not divisional games, so I'm not going to rip them for that. At the same time, a 3-3 week is just so average, which I expect for New York fundamentally. They have a lot of potential. They could go on a run, and hopefully in the second half of the season they do go on a run. Between their rotation and their lineup, it's just a battery that no one's turned on yet. They can do it, I just haven't seen it yet. Coming in at number 17, the St. Louis Cardinals. St. Louis is always that one piece away from getting back to the World Series. However, this year, they are a very average team. They're in third place in the division. They're up to this week being 1 game over 500, 35-34. And they had an above average week being 4 wins, 3 losses on the road in Miami and at New York. Miami should have been gimme games. New York taking 2 out of 3. I'm really not surprised because New York seems to be very like I just mentioned about the whole potential of the light switch. St. Louis always feels to me like a team that, regardless of how they're playing on the field a given day, has the ability to just one piece away from, boom, take it off like a rocket. Now, if I've said something different in previous weeks, I'm just going based upon my observations of how they're playing overall. Weekend season and whatnot. Coming in at number 16, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Los Angeles is up 1 this week. They're 1 game under 500, and they're in 4th place in the division. Fundamentally, I realize the power rankings show teams that are higher ranked down and teams that are lower ranked higher. I get that. This is not based upon the reality of the matter is, keep in mind, the standings are based upon wins, losses. There is no split points in extra innings. That is done for power ranking purposes to differentiate teams against the competition. So that one point for an extra inning loss does buoy teams higher than the standings surely should be. And this is based upon points first and foremost. So LA had a good, solid week. They didn't play the divisional game this week, but they won 4 and lost 2. Fundamentally, every single week I love to highlight that, because if you ask managers and players what it takes to have a winning season and to get the championship, they always talk about during the course of a 162 game season, you've got to win 2 out of 3, win series, whether it's sweeps or just 2 out of 3. Based upon that, that means you want, out of a 6-game week, win 4, lose 2. That's exactly what LA did. They had a very good, solid week, winning with that 2 out of 3. Now they did drop last Sunday's finale, but they went into LA Dodgers for the Highway Series and took both of them. Considering LA has been LA this year, now granted, bear in mind that, like the Subway Series, the Highway Series is, when you're going into those games, doesn't matter how good or bad the other team is, all bets are off. You could have a 1 versus 30 team, and granted, most likely you're going to have a sweep there, but when it comes to the Highway Series and the Subway Series, it's like a divisional game all bets are off. You don't know what's going to happen, but it's a great opportunity for LA to buoy themselves, to take on the LA Dodgers and take a couple of games. Fantastic work, great job, LA. That's what you got to do. So, then of course they went into Tampa Bay and took 2 out of 3 there. Tampa Bay has been the phenomenon of the league for the opener strategy. Their team is based upon the opener strategy. They've been doing very, very well with that all year, and LA still goes in and takes 2 out of 3 on the road. Great job, LA. Kudos, props, awesome. Keep it up. Let's see you build upon that. You had a very good week. Coming in at number 15, the Colorado Rockies. Colorado up 1 this week, being 4 games over 500, 37-33. They're in second place in the division behind the Los Angeles Dodgers. They had home games against the Chicago Cubs and the San Diego Padres, taking 2 out of 3 from both of them. They won both series. Awesome. Phenomenal. Just like I was talking about with Los Angeles, this is also a team earlier this year had a 7-0 week. This is a team that is climbing out of the cellar and making contenders out of themselves. And they did it again, having a strong week. Granted, they dropped the season finale last Sunday, but they picked up the pieces and ran with it, winning 2 straight series. One being against divisional rival, the San Diego Padres. That's exactly what you gotta do. They're showing their mettle and they're winning games. They also did a handy job against some other teams. I don't want to show any bias or objective against the games that I got to watch and games I did not get to watch, but they are showing their ability to come back and to own games. And they definitely did this week. Coming in at number 14, the Cleveland Indians are down 3 spots this week, but are still 3 games under 500 at 36-33. They are in second place behind Minnesota in the AL Central, and they had a 3-win, 2-loss week, having home games against Cincinnati, splitting them in the Ohio series. I always find those geographical interleague games very interesting because they mean when you would get into those regional games between the Highway Series, Subway Series, the Ohio Series, the Florida Series, I could go on and on and on. But those are always fun because those are games in which you're playing interleague games, all bets are off, and it's just a lot of fun for the fans. Because they're not games you get every year. You do get them every year, but you don't get them like your 18 games against your division. These are just single sets. You get a couple of games at home, a couple of games on the road, and they just, granted, the players who do it every single year, it just becomes routine, it's just another team. To the fans, it brings it home, it gives you something to root for, it gives you your city pride, state pride, your competition for that geographical setting there, and it's just a lot of fun. Having said that, the Cleveland Indians went 1-1 against Cincinnati. Not surprised, splitting those interleague games are very, very common. At the same time, they also went into Detroit and kicked their butts 2 games. So, on that note, they did exactly what you gotta do against your division. Granted, the Detroit Tigers are a little bit of a doormat this year, but they had a fun week. They took care of business in Detroit, and then they got a split against the Cincinnati Reds. Coming in at number 13, the Oakland Athletics. This is a team which, when they dropped their game to Tokyo at the end of the season against Seattle, and then of course they remained in the top 10 but below Seattle, I thought, okay, this stability beam team, this is the whole Moneyball team. Granted, over a decade past that miracle season of 20 wins straight, this is a team with which I really did not have high expectations for, but yet, despite that, because of the structured team, because of the management, and because of the players they have, they managed to fall, but then bounce back up, whereas Seattle has not. And I mentioned in the video about the series with which I am keeping a closer eye on than most. Oakland is one of those teams with which, even though they probably are not going to make the playoffs, being in third place in their division, but they are 1 game over 500, they're still a team that fascinates me to no end. How they can welcome in Houston, get their butts whooped, but then they can go into let's say for example, versus Boston and beat their pants. So it's a team with which I don't put them in the same card as Pittsburgh because they've got this sort of a secret sauce. Sometimes it plays out, sometimes not so much. But they are the team that is highlighted as the pioneer of bringing in underrated players. Granted, the rest of the league is largely carved out by this point, hence the draft is so phenomenal. See the Kaiko video on that one, about how all teams are putting a much, much higher regard on the draft. Thank you, Oakland. Having said that, they go into Tampa, they take 2 out of 3, then they split the set at home against, Seattle. And this is a team in which endless fascination. How can they go on the road in Tampa, take 2 out of 3, then come home and split against Seattle? It's just one of those teams where it's fun to watch. You can't hold your breath like Billy Bean does and be like clenching your fist. Come on, because this is a team with which are almost like the lovable losers in New York, in which they have so much potential, and then it's like, turn on the light switch. Come on, let's get this done. Coming in at number 12, the Boston Red Sox had an above-average week. They're 4 games over 500, sitting in 3rd spot in their division. They're up 2 this week after winning 4 games and losing 3. Splitting the 4 games against Texas at home, 2-2, and then going to Baltimore and putting some meat on the bones there. Taking care of Baltimore, and taking 2 games to none. Honestly, I would be shocked if that wasn't a sweep. Honestly, because Baltimore is just that weak of a team, and Boston is just that good of a team. This is a team with which they were sleeping giants beginning of the year between their star-studded rotation, their powerhouse lineup, coming off the last year's World Series championship. They've had targeted back all year. They've struggled to find their identity because every team has been trying to pound them with their absolute best all year, which is an unfair handicap for a World Series champion, but that's what you get for winning a championship. All teams go through that. It's what makes winning consecutive championships so ridiculously difficult. Because instead of rising to the top and taking that championship, you're now having to do it against everyone throwing their absolute best at you. Having said that, they still have a very, very strong team, and they are rising because of it. This is a team with which both Tampa and New York are keeping a very, very close eye on. I don't care that they are X number of games back, 6 again I think it is, back in their division. That's not a safe lead against Boston. When you play Boston, you're up 3-4 runs, you're like, tack on. They could blow it out and score 10 runs in a given inning. You can't rest or sleep on your watch against Boston. Coming in at number 11 to round out the mid-section here of teams trying to find their identity, trying to go on a run, and some teams sinking. The Arizona Diamondbacks, up 4 this week for the largest jump of any team. They are 4 games over 500 at 38-34. They had a very strong week, not the best, but second best. 5 wins, 2 losses, going into Philadelphia, taking 2 out of 3, going into Washington, taking 2 out of 3. And winning last Sunday's finale. They had a very good week. They weren't divisional games, but they took care of business on their East Coast trip. They were 2nd place in the division, and good luck getting to number 1. That's going to be quite the climb there. That's like being 2nd place in the NHL, is 2nd place in your division against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Good luck. Getting to the playoffs will probably be the tip your cap to the Arizona Diamondbacks if you can do that. Can you take the top spot? Sure. There's a lot of baseball left, over half the season to go, but the way the number 1 team has been playing this year, good luck. So, That completes the bottom 20 of the league, and that gives you an idea of to where the struggling teams are, the rebuilders, and the games with which are highly unpredictable. You've got some people rising, you've got some teams falling, you've got a lot of inconsistency is what I see across the board. Largely inconsistency. With the exception of a couple teams that are climbing themselves out, you just have a lot of inconsistency here. Of course, you also have your teams that are falling. So, now, let's get into the award show, shall we say, the top 10. This is the most fun of the whole board. The top 10 what everyone loves. When you look on YouTube, you're always looking for top 10 this, top 10 that. It's a nice round number, it's a beautiful thing, and this is what makes the whole board exciting. I've had a lot of fans tell me that they skip right past the top 10 because that's the most interesting, and I get it. I don't have a problem with that. If it wasn't for the fact that I love the whole game and I follow all the teams, winners and losers, I would probably be inclined to do the same thing. No issue, no problem with that. Having said that, let's go get into it. Coming in at number 10, the Texas Rangers. Texas being 6 games up over 500, 38 and 32, are in second place in their division. Have not moved one since they were in the same spot as last week. They had an above average week, being 4 wins, 3 losses, going into Boston, taking 2 out of 4, going into Cincinnati, taking 2, and the season finale today. They lost their season finale last week, but this is a team in which the fact that they managed to stay in the top 10 and they went into Boston and won. Yay! Rangers, great job! Yay! I'm sorry, I know how damn good Boston is. Having said that, the fact that they went into Fenway and took 2 of the games, props. Would it have been sweet to see them win the series? Yes. But here's the reality of the matter is, it is very, very difficult to win a 4-game set. It is more difficult to win 3 or 4 out of a 4-game set than it is to sweep a 2-game set. There's just more games involved, too many variables, too many opportunities to drop a game, to win a game. You don't. It's a much more difficult thing to do. So to see them go into Fenway and get the split is expected for a 4-game series. It's the most common thing to have happen. Same time, I still want to give them credit for taking 2 games. Coming in, number 9, the Milwaukee Brewers. The Brewers are down 2 spots, but they're still 8 games up, above 500 at 39-31. They are in first place of their division, and that's nothing to shake a stick at. They had a subpar week, winning 2, losing 3, going into Houston and splitting 2-game set 1-1, and going into San Francisco and laying an egg against the San Francisco Giants. Now, I'm going to say for going into Houston, splitting the 2 games, okay, I'll give you a pass, not bad. Houston's a very, very strong team. It was a road game for you. Splitting the series, I'll take it. Hands down, any day. I'll take a split. Same way, Texas going into Boston and splitting, I'll take it. I'll absolutely take it any day. Going into San Francisco, now it's time to rag on you. Dude, what happened? It's San Francisco, okay? Yes, I gave props to San Francisco for doing it to you, taking those games, but come on, it's San Francisco, Milwaukee. You've got a much better team than that. You had a bad series. It is what it is. Sorry, Milwaukee fans, but I do absolutely expect more from the Brewers. I expect to see you climb next week. You hear me? Do it. Make it happen. Coming in, number 8, the Chicago Cubs. Same spot as last week. They were 8 games out of 500. They are number 1 in the National League Central. And they had an average week, winning 3, losing 3, going into Colorado, dropping 2 out of 3. going into LA, dropping 2-3, but they get their third win, taking the season finale last Sunday. This is a team with which I call the Joe Madden formula, because this guy is a maestro with running a team. Look what he did in Tampa Bay prior to Chicago. This is a team, and he brought Chicago to their only championship ever. Well, not ever. Since the early 1900s. The largest drought any team, and Joe Madden broke it. He takes the Hall of Fame vote for that alone, I would think. Having said that, they're having a very strong year. They just had a bad week. Going into their West Coast swing there, they dropped 4 out of 6. They had a rough week. Sorry, Cubs fans. But because they have had such a strong year so far, and they're in first place, it doesn't hurt their standings overall in the power rankings, being number 8, and doesn't kill them overall. You had a bad week, you pick up, you sweep yourself off, brush yourself off, and you move on. Coming in at number 7, the Philadelphia Phillies. Talk about a stacked team with tons of potential. They are 8 games under 500, 39-31, but they do fall 1 spot this week, having had a below average week. Winning 2, losing 4, dropping the season finale last week, and then dropping their 2 out of 3 games against Arizona home, then going to Atlanta and splitting 1-1. Now, with this, Atlanta is an up-and-coming team. They just got Keuchel, who hasn't started yet, but without him, they still have 4 rookies who are having a breakout year, really setting a tone for their careers, and a team with a whole bunch of names that prior to this year you may not have even known are really putting together, and they're really challenging Philadelphia. They've actually managed to leapfrog Philadelphia in the standings at being number 1. So Philadelphia, look out for Atlanta. They've already shown what they can do. Be careful of the season finale this year. I have a lot of expectation for you, the way you stacked your team this year, when you brought in all the talent. You are playing under your potential, in my opinion. Again, Philadelphia fans are so used to this that it's sort of like, okay, they do all these deals they have so much hope for. They're like, well, let me hold my breath a little bit, because you're going to have weeks like this, which you underperform. You're also going to have weeks that you overperform. And I'm strongly banking that they're going to have those overperforming weeks in the end of the year, because you do have that ability. So, coming in at number 6, the Atlanta Braves. Speaking of upcoming stars, they leapfrog Philadelphia this week. Having their 11 games over 500, 41-30, they're up 3 spots. They had the single best week of any team in Major League Baseball this week, winning 6, losing 1. Home games against the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Philadelphia Phillies, and sweeping the board against Pittsburgh, taking their season finale on Sunday, and then splitting against Philadelphia. For Atlanta chasing and then eclipsing the Philadelphia Phillies, the fact that you split against Philadelphia, I'll take that. Because it's like, for example, if you're at New York and Houston, you know, if you split, you'll take that any day of the week. If you're talking Chicago Cubs and St. Louis, if you split that Friday and Saturday games, I'll take that. You want the sweep, but you'll take a split, especially this team you were previously chasing. You've now eclipsed. You'll take it. They want the series win, especially at home. Defend your home turf, but taking the first 2 games, you'll take it. It's like only having 2 games to and splitting it. It's fine, totally okay. However, playing against Pittsburgh, sweeping that, phenomenal job, man. Phenomenal job. Pittsburgh came in and you wrapped up and you swept them out of your own club. Way to defend home turf. Fantastic job. That builds you into first place. Fantastic work, Atlanta. Great job. Coming in at number 5, the Big Five, your powerhouse teams, best teams in the league, teams with which when you lose you're surprised, and those teams that can actually take out a game from these teams. Phenomenal work. You definitely get your celebratory cap wave. Awesome. Powerhouse team starting off with the Tampa Bay Rays, who have coined the opener, in which they don't have enough quality starting pitchers to have a traditional five-man roster. You do have Charlie Morton from the Houston Astros. You do have your Blake Snell, phenomenal pitchers. They definitely solidify your rotation. They definitely give you a boost in the ability of the year. However, the rest of your rotation, you've got your starter, and they're a team that is built their team around having somebody start the first inning or two of a game to get through the heart of the lineup and turn it over to their bullpen. One of the best bullpens in the game, and that's how they just figured, okay, we have enough depth in the bullpen, we don't have enough depth in the rotation, we'll do this opener strategy, and they do it better than anybody else because their team's structured around it. Would they prefer to have five-man rotation? Who wouldn't? But working with what you got, they've done phenomenal with it. Having said that, they were in the same spot as last week, being at 42 and 28. They're in second place in their division. They are on the heels of the first place team, like a half a game out or something like that. And that is despite the fact that they had home games against the Oakland Athletics and the Los Angeles Angels, dropping 4 out of 6 against those two teams. While they did take their season finale on Sunday, they had a poor week. They're not divisional games, so thank goodness for that. At the same time, they didn't exactly hold down their home fort there. They had a bad week, and being a fan of the AL East, I'm not exactly rooting for them to rebound per se, but at the same time, from an objective standpoint, they are definitely, every team has bad weeks. Every team has bad weeks. They will rebound. They will be right back up there. Coming in, number 4, the New York Yankees. They are in first place in their division. They are in the same spot as last week, being 42 and 27 on the year. They had an average week splitting the Subway Series against the New York Mets and dropping 2 out of 3 against Chicago at home. They did win their season finale on Sunday, or their series finale on Sunday, but moving on to this week, you welcomed in the Mets to Yankee Stadium and you split the game. Granted, with the rainouts, you had a doubleheader there. It's very, very difficult to sweep a doubleheader, and getting a split, you take that. Granted, it's New York. They hold themselves to higher standards. They would have preferred to sweep New York at home and on the road and be kings of New York. They love that bragging rights, being New York being one of the cities with one of the most teams in the of all cities in the U.S. I think LA has more teams, but only by a hair. Anyway, New York did not get the bragging rights. They split this series against the Mets in New York. And then they go ahead and go on the road trip into Chicago, and they drop the first 2 games of the series before taking the Saturdays game, in which those are all games in which New York's pitching is just struggling. They have got CC Sabathia, who can't get out of the 4th inning. They claim he's an innings eater. I haven't seen it yet. You figure, okay, he'll keep you in the game. Giving up 3-4 runs a game is not getting it done. Yes, this is his retirement year. He announced this will be his final season in Major League Baseball. Fundamentally, I think it's a year too long, and they're struggling for it. They also have James Paxton, who's underperforming from last year. At the same time, Paxton did come from Seattle. He had a good year last year in Seattle, but this year, just not performing up to the expectations everyone put the hype on around him. Tanaka is still holding down the fort. He's getting paid ace money, but he hasn't playing ace stature the SE analysts talking about how creative, how great of an acquisition he is, and he will win more games than he loses. But I haven't seen that fireballer ace perform out of him yet. Having said that, all teams have weaknesses, all teams have strengths. So having had a bad week against the Chicago White Sox, you just dust yourself off and you move on. They do get to come home next week, so we'll see how that turns out for them. Now, here things get very nice. Your top 3 teams. These are teams who are killing it, who are taking names and knocking them down. To start off the top 3, you got the Minnesota Twins! The powerhouse Twins are on the same spot as last week, being 47-22 in first spot. If it wasn't for the Atlanta Braves, they'd have the best week of all teams. They come in at 5 wins and 1 loss, having taken 2 out of 3 at home against Seattle, and then taken 2 games against Kansas City. Kansas City are more or less gimme games for Minnesota. They're just too good. Taken 2 out of 3 against against Seattle. Again, that's a series I expected Minnesota to win. So they take care of business. They win games they're supposed to win. They took 2 out of 3 from Seattle, and Minnesota. They won their season finale last Sunday. So they're doing everything you expect from a powerhouse team. And as much as I would love to bandwagon Minnesota and root them on, this is a team that is no stranger to winning their division. In the 2000s, I believe, they won the division more often than they didn't. And I give them all the credit in the world, all the props in the world. You're doing a phenomenal job. Your rotation's kicking it. Your pitchers are kicking it. You're doing a wonderful job. Hence, you are number 3. Hence, you are ranked. You have the title of a powerhouse this year. Where I want to see Minnesota do with that is take their phenomenal regular season and take that into the playoffs. I want to see a deep run for you. If you don't make the ALCS, then you've just put on a great regular season show. And if that's the case, so be it. You've definitely put on a strong performance all year long. Let's see what you do with it. Right now, they are doing phenomenal. Well done, Twins. Coming in number 2, the Houston Astros. Talk about a powerhouse. Wow. With Verlander and everybody else on that team. It's just, this is a team that is so damn good that when they lose a game, it's like, really? Speaking of which, they welcomed in the Milwaukee Brewers and they split the series. Now, realistically, I expect that was a 3-game set. They would have taken 2 out of 3. It wasn't. So, with that, you took on Milwaukee, you split the series. Now, Milwaukee is no slouch. It's not like you split against Miami or Detroit. You did it against Milwaukee. I'll give you a pass for that this week, but don't make a habit of it. Then, of course, you welcome in the Toronto Blue Jays and you take the first 2 games. Season finale today, I'm expecting a sweep there because they're Toronto. You got a bunch of Hall of Famer sons and rookies that are still establishing themselves. You are an established team. You have country veterans between Altuve, between Bregman, between the whole rotation there. You have a very, very strong team. You have a championship caliber team. You have a team that, if you don't make the ALCS, it'll be a disappointment, honestly. You just are that good. Having had a 4-win, 1-loss week. Now, we've covered the whole board here except for one team. Who is the number 1 team in baseball? Well, probably not too surprising. The Los Angeles Dodgers. I always like to reflect them against the Tampa Bay Lightning of the NHL as far as regular season games are concerned, because the Lightning got swept in the first round. I do not expect that for LA, especially having gone to the World Series against Boston this last year. They don't have the tag on their backs like Boston does, have that being World Series champions, but I'm sure they would probably prefer that. This team has just been killing it all year. Having said that, they didn't have a phenomenal week by LA standards. They got humbled, have a very average 3-win, 3-loss week, welcoming in the LA Angels for the Highway Series and dropping 2 games. Now, when you go on the road, you'll probably sweep that to finish off a 2-2 year, but for this series alone, you drop 2 games, very disappointing for Dodger fans. Then you welcome the Chicago Cubs and you right the ship, taking 2 out of 3 at home. That's what they've been doing all year. They've been sweeping or taking a series. So I kind of more or less chalk this up to the fact they dropped their season finale last Sunday, and then they had a rough showing against the Angels. They had, while a subpar by LA standards, they had a prototypical week for what I expect for the Dodgers, because when it comes to the Angels and Highway Series, all bets are off. But then you proceed to win the season finale on Sunday, and then you take 2 out of 3 from Chicago going into this finale. So I am expecting them to beat Chicago in the season finale today, but they are a team of which, when they lose, is a surprise, because they have just been killing it all year. So that is our power rankings for this year, for this week, not this year, this week. I want to know what you all think about what I think. Please leave your thoughts and comments in the section below. If you have any questions about the game, any questions about where teams rank, questions about the performance, please feel free to ask them in the comment section below, and I will do my very best to respond to you and share with you my knowledge. I do this because I love the game of baseball. Do I have my favorite teams? No question about it. I challenge you to pick out who my teams are out of this board here based upon the way I objectively approach the power rankings. I will, however, go ahead and just give it away to you, because I feel like being secretive about that isn't very fair. It's no question, if you look at previous videos, I am a fan of the New York Yankees. I'm also a fan of the Miami Marlins. And there are a number of teams here I'm keeping a very, very close eye on with fan-like interest. Rooting for them, not rooting for them, I'm taking it all in. I enjoy all of it. So, having said that, thank you all for watching. If you just happen to be browsing through the web or happen to pop this video on YouTube, please hit the like and subscribe button. All of it helps promote the channel and allows me to reach a broader audience and share my love of baseball to everybody. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all have a wonderful Father's Day. Enjoy your wife, your kids, your spouse, whatever the situation might be in your home. Single, married, whatever. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. It's a beautiful day of the year in which you get to recognize all the men who took care and raised your children, and all the kids you get to celebrate with, because they made you a father and gave you the best joy in the world that anyone would ask for. So have a wonderful Father's Day. Thank you for watching. Have a great week. See you next time.